Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing a fun little library book haul. I went to my library this afternoon and I picked up a ton of books I had on hold. So we're just gonna go ahead and dive right in. So here is the sack. Just a few books here. So the first book I have is Topped Chef by Lucy Burdette. This is part of the Key West Food Critic mystery series, and this is, I believe, book 4 in the series. It's book 3. I read the first 2 books in the series and I really liked book 1. I think I gave it 4 stars. It was really fun. But book 2, for me, it just felt, I don't know, some of the characters were getting really annoying. I just didn't enjoy it as much. It wasn't a flop for me, but it wasn't as good as the book 1, so I didn't continue. But recently I got re-interested in the series, so I want to try this out again. Our main character in this is Haley, and she is a food critic. So she writes for this like food magazine. She gets to go to restaurants and eat delicious foods and write about it and all of that amazing stuff. What a fun opportunity right there. So basically Haley's boss signs her up for this like Key West Topped Chef contest, and he wants her to be a judge in the contest and like represent the magazine that she works at. So she goes, she's a little bit nervous, but you know, things are going okay. However, one of the judges she learns shortly after getting there is actually the owner, a big shot businessman and owner of a restaurant that she just like criticized really badly in her first review. So she's kind of nervous about being around him, and things get even worse when that man ends up being found dead. So the police are on the case. They're trying to figure out if this man was just murdered by someone in his personal life, if it's like a business rival, if it's somebody at the competition who's taking it a little too seriously, and Haley begins to snoop around. So this will be my deciding factor about whether or not I'm going to continue the series, so I'm hoping it'll be good. It's really adorable. I love her little cat on the cover. How adorable. And from what I remember, she actually lives on a houseboat with her friend, which I thought was a really cool like just component to live on a houseboat. I've never been on a houseboat before, but it sounds like it would be interesting, so I definitely cross your fingers for me. I'm hoping this will work out. Next we have The Club by Ellery Lloyd. This is a thriller and it says everyone's dying to join. This is a Reese's book club pick, which I mean I think I've only read 1 or 2 of those so far and they seemed like they were pretty good, so we'll see. I have not read anything by this author before. This was just one that I think I was scrolling through my library online and just sounded really interesting to me. So we're gonna go ahead and hop into the synopsis. So it sounds like basically this is an exclusive group of clubs called the Home Group, and basically it's where like A-list celebrities can go to like party hard in these like exclusive fancy resorts and then crash in like 5-star like luxury, you know, hotel rooms or like condos or something on the grounds, and that way they're away from like the media and like prying eyes and photographers, and they can just really let loose basically. And it sounds like they basically have one of the groups, the most spectacular of all is the Island Home, which is a very closely guarded ultra luxurious resort, and people just wait like all year long to try to get on the guest list for this because it's like the super big one out of the resorts and clubs they have. So things are going okay. The group is getting a lot of hype and people are really anxious to get on the guest list. However, the team that runs that particular club is really starting to break down. They are just tired. They are exhausted. I'm sure they're probably not being treated very well by a lot of the members of the club, I would imagine. Gonna take a fair guess and say. And they're just losing their patience. They're at their limits. And a lot of them are at their breaking point. And this is before the guests even arrive. So then the guests do arrive, and a lot of them, you know, beautiful people with deep, dark secrets. And that is where the story begins, and then people start to die, and that is kind of the general premise of this. It sounded really interesting to me. It looks, from what I can tell, like kind of a summery, springy thriller because it has like a pool on the front. Looks kind of, the Island Home suggests kind of a tropical getaway. We'll see, but this one just felt like right up my alley for this season. Really excited. I've never read Ellery Lloyd before, but I guess she wrote People Like Her, so if I like her, hopefully this will introduce me to another thriller author. Next one I'm very excited for. I recently finished Finlay, Donovan is Killing It, which I loved. I thought that was like a strong 4-star read for me. Really engaging, really entertaining, and so I picked up the second book in the series, which is Finlay, Donovan Knocks Him Dead by Elle Cosimano. And I am very excited for this one because the first book did end it was a complete mystery within itself, but it did leave you with a little bit of a cliffhanger, a little bit of a taste of what would be coming in book 2. So our main character in this is Finlay Donovan, and she is a like mystery thriller writer. In the first book, basically she is overheard talking to her agent about the plot of her book, which involves a contract like killer or like hit woman, and someone in the Panera that they're at actually mistakes her for a hit woman and tries to hire her. So that's kind of the general premise of the series. In this one, she finds out that someone has actually hired a hit on her ex-husband, who she doesn't adore. You know, they have issues, clearly. He's an ex-husband. There's not a lot of love lost there, but of course she doesn't want him to die. So she starts to go down a rabbit hole of trying to figure out who actually wants him to be taken out, and she discovers all these hit moms disguised as soccer moms and gets involved with the Russian mob. And then she also has her live-in nanny and assistant, Vero, who I think was probably my favorite character in the first book, and she's starting to keep secrets, and the police officer's trying to get back in her life, and all this drama, and she's just trying to keep it together and, you know, keep her children alive, keep herself alive, finish her book before the big deadline, and I am so excited for this. The first book was such a kick, so I cannot wait for this. I love the covers for these two. I think the artwork is really fun, and I'm just really excited for this. So stay tuned for that. I will, if you're not subscribed already, definitely hit subscribe. I do reading updates and reading wrap-ups every single month on my channel, and reading vlogs as well, where I'll give reviews of the books and things that I talk about. So this one I actually picked up on a whim. I didn't have this on hold, but they have this program at my library called like the Lucky Day 7-day loan, and it's basically very popular books that you can only check out for 7 days, and that it's hit or miss whether they have what you're looking for or not. So it's like a randomized display of what they have in. And the one I checked out was I Have Some Questions for You by Makkai, and this one, I've just been seeing it all over BookTube. As far as I know, it's a thriller. I don't know that much about it. I just recognize the cover because it's a very distinctive cover. I'll put a picture on the screen because it's a library copy, so it's very shiny with the glossy protective cover on it. So our main character in this book is named Bodhi Kane, and she's like a successful filmmaker, like podcaster, and she basically had a very rough, like marred family upbringing. Like there's a lot of stuff going on there. She was sent to boarding school for 4 years, which wasn't her cup of tea, and unfortunately while she was at boarding school, her roommate Thalia was murdered. And a man named Omar was convicted, and he was like the school's like athletic trainer, and he was convicted. And despite all this drama, like Bodhi's like, I need to put this aside, I need to let it, I need to let it die, like I cannot, have this consume my life. However, she receives an invitation back to the school to teach a course, and she decides to go back to the school and teach this course to children and stuff while she's there, and she ends up falling down a rabbit hole and realizing that she wasn't as much of an outcast during school as she thought she was, and there might be more to Thalia's death than what the police actually like came up with and like convicted Omar with. So her and people on the internet as well are thinking that this case is not actually solved. So she gets involved in solving the case. I'm pretty excited for this. I just something about like, past lost secrets. This one sounds really interesting. I think the character sounds pretty interesting. I have not read anything by this author yet, but I'm very excited too, so we'll see how this goes. Alright, and next we have one of my favorite cozy mystery series. I'm excited for the next installment. It's called Nothing Bundt Trouble by Ellie Alexander, and this is part of the Bakeshop mystery series. This is like book 11 or something. I think there's almost 18 books out, something about there, and I've read the first like 10, 11 books of this and loved them. They've just been really, really good. Our main character in this is named Jules, and she is a baker at her family's bake shop, Tort, in Ashland, Oregon, which is this beautiful, like touristy like Oregon town, and it has a lot of Shakespearean elements to it. They do like a lot of Shakespeare plays. Like Tort has a chalkboard where they put Shakespeare quotes and everything, and she works with her mom and some other employees at the shop, and they're wonderful characters. I love seeing all the employees grow. Like they all have great storylines, and you just get to see them grow. I definitely recommend reading this cozy mystery series in order if you can. And this one takes place in spring specifically, which I'm very excited for. So this is a close-up of the beautiful illustration here. I love the covers for these. I think they're so charming and beautiful. And basically in this particular case, Jules is preparing to move into her family home, and she's getting ready to move, and when she's like going through the stuff that's left at the home, she discovers among her deceased father's like things that he has these like clippings from this like hit and run case. and she's kind of confused about this at first. And this case is all the way from the 1980s, and it's a controversial case in Ashland, Oregon. Like, a lot of people think that maybe it wasn't actually a hit and run, even though it was kind of declared to be a hit and run. So Jules starts to look through the pile of stuff like her father has. So that involves going through old files and like cassette tapes, and I love a good cold case mystery. Absolutely adore that, so I'm very excited to see where this goes. And I love a good bundt cake. I might have to make a bundt cake with this. Like, love. This one always makes me so hungry. They have the best food descriptions, both savory and baked goods. There's always like a good savory recipe in there too, which I personally enjoy. Gotta love this. If you like a culinary cozy mystery, definitely check this one out. This next thriller really gets me because the premise, I'm like, what could it be? Like, I'm already, my mind's cranking. And this one's called Things We Do in the Dark, a novel by Jennifer Hillier, who's author of Little Secrets. And basically we have our main character in this. Her name is Paris, and she is arrested in her own bathroom holding a straight razor, and her husband is found dead in like the bathtub. And it appears that she has killed him, even though she hasn't murdered him. But of course the police arrest her, they take her in, and she's facing murder charges. However, the murder charges aren't actually what's bothering Paris, which, that in itself, I don't know anyone who wouldn't be worried about murder charges. Like, that's, you know, that's a really worst case scenario. But the reason she's not as concerned about the murder case, like murder charges against her, is because she's more worried about her dark past coming to light with all the like news and paparazzi and everything around the case and her like celebrity status, or at least her husband's a celebrity, so of course she's going to be like well known if nothing else. And at the same time, this woman named Ruby Reyes, known as the Ice Queen, she was convicted of a similar murder about 25 years ago. However, she is let out for the murder, and she holds a dark secret. She knows what Paris's dark history is. So Paris is really worried about this. Ruby is possibly going to like unearth her secrets. And Ruby starts to threaten Paris about releasing her secrets to the public, and Paris is kind of forced to finally confront her dark past. Okay, so next we have another cozy mystery. This is a Jane Austen mystery by Levine. This is Death by Pantyhose, and I have been on a kick with these Jane Austen mysteries. They are this very, very comedy-heavy cozy mystery. Like, it's still a cozy mystery for sure. Like, it's definitely a mystery. That's the main, like, plot point. But the writing style is heavy on the comedy. It's very funny. Like, this is one of the series that I will consistently laugh out loud at. Overall, I find the writing to be very funny. The author is constantly poking fun at Jane and everyone around Jane. Her cat's name is Prozac. I mean, just the dialogue is hilarious. Like, I love it. It's just like something when I know I need a good laugh. Like, I've been reading these on Friday nights after, like, you know, a long work week, and I just want something light and chipper. This is the kind of book I pick up. So basically, Jane Austen is a freelance writer, and she's living in a big city, and she's just struggling to get by. Like, you know, freelancing can be difficult. I personally know that, like, as a freelance writer myself, I know how that feels. So I guess I relate to Jane a little bit with that, and she's just trying to provide the best life that she can for herself and for her fabulous kitty Prozac. Okay, so basically in this one, Jane has taken on a client who is a comedian. Her name is Dorcas. I might pick a different stage name possibly, but that... Anyways, Dorcas is not having the most successful comedian career. Basically, her punchlines are terrible. One of her punchlines involves throwing pantyhose into the audience. I have no idea how the joke would go, but she's not having a great career, so she hires Jane as like a ghostwriter for jokes for her comedy act, and Jane's like, okay, I need the money, let's do this, we can do this. And she's writing jokes for her, and everything's going okay until basically one of her Dorcas's rivals, this man who's much more successful than her, both professionally and in his personal love life. It sounds like he's quite the two-timer. He's two-timing his agent, he's two-timing like 3 different women. That oh, you like to live dangerously if you're two-timing people. That's... I don't know how people do that. I would be so incredibly stressed out. That seems like a lot to keep straight. Like, I feel like one life is enough to keep straight. I don't know. I don't know how people do it. But anyways, he is two-timing everyone in his life, professionally, personally. It's a mess. And one day he keeps just needling at Dorcas, the comedian, and she's finally, like, she's had enough. And she actually assaults him. She like, she fights back against him, and that doesn't go so well, of course. And when he is found dead shortly after this, the comedian Dorcas is immediately a suspect in the case. And Jane knows that despite her terrible jokes and the temper that she, her losing her temper, she didn't actually murder this guy. So Jane is on the case trying to solve it. And I am just excited. I might read this tonight. It sounds nice. Like, I could use a little comedy right now. And what I like about these books is they're like 230 pages or so they're definitely on the very like short side for a novel. And that's just like the comedy. I mean, she doesn't mince her words. Like, it's just hard-hitting comedy, plot points, like everything's moving constantly. There's nothing slow about these, which is just, it's great for when you just need a really good relief and you just want to read everything in like one night or one day or one weekend and just really escape. It's great. Alright, so I picked up another thriller, and this is the second time reading this author. So last year I read Daisy Darker by Alice Feeney, and I loved it. I loved it. I thought it was so good. I thought the writing style was atmospheric. I thought the characters were interesting. I thought the plot was... I loved the plot. Like, I was stunned by the plot multiple times. So I wanted to check out what else Alice Feeney has written. And what I decided upon was this book called His and Hers, which I love this cover. How much fun is that? So the premise of this, based on the name His and Hers, it's a dual narrative thriller. So you have two perspectives, and we have Anna Andrews, who is like a news anchor, and she is asked to go back to her hometown, which is a small little town, and she's asked to cover a woman's murder there. So she goes back there, she's covering the case, but she soon after finds herself kind of at the heart of everything. The other perspective is our main leading man, Jack Harper, who is a detective chief inspector, and he's actually really suspicious of Anna's involvement in the case, and he knows that she knew the victim, even though she's not really letting that on. So he's following her, he's questioning her motives and her narrative and all that, but he also has a secret regarding the victim. And I'm really excited for this. It sounds like we have a really fast-paced thriller. We have two different perspectives. I think this could be really fun, really contradictory. I'm really excited for this. It sounds really good, and if it's anything like Daisy Darker in terms of like how well she pulled off the plot and like the execution, I'm excited for this. So I love the spine on this, like the artwork, just beautiful. Alright, and so lastly, I have two books that I got from free like little libraries around me, which I swapped like books out for in the little libraries. And one of these, actually, my husband was out and about, and we always keep extra books in the car to like swap out for the little libraries when we come across them. And he actually got this one for me, and I'm so excited for this because I've been meaning to read this author and I haven't yet. And that is Dorothy L. Sayers, who is described as the mistress of the Golden Age mystery. This book is called Strong Poison, and this is part of her Lord Peter Wimsey mystery featuring Harriet Vane, and I'm excited for this. This is a really cute book. This one just sounds right up my alley. I'm so excited for this. It sounds very like, Agatha Christie, Golden Age style mysteries, and I love Agatha Christie, and some of you have told me you like Dorothy L. Sayers' work even more, so I'm so excited for this. Basically, one of the characters we're following in this is Harriet, and she's a mystery novelist, so she has this really extensive knowledge of poisons because she's always writing murder mysteries, and she has this knowledge, and she's not the happiest, I think, in her marriage, and basically her husband dies by poison as one of her books like lays it out. So she is immediately a suspect in her husband's death because oftentimes spouses do have something to do with their spouse's death, and it also follows one of her book plots and the poison exactly. And so Lord Peter Wimsey is on the case not just because he wants to clear her name because he knows she didn't do it, but because he also wants to make her his wife. I mean, hey, the guy can save you from a murder charge. That's a pretty good start to a strong relationship. That's a pretty good start, I would say. So I am very excited for this. I'm very excited for this. This just sounds really, really good, and I can't wait. And I didn't know this, but it says that Dorothy L. Sayers was one of the first women to be awarded a degree by Oxford University. She became a copywriter in an ad agency, and she published her first novel featuring the aristocratic detective Lord Peter Wimsey in 1923, and he became one of the world's most popular fictional heroes. I'm very excited for this. I don't know much about Lord Peter Wimsey. I have not read anything by this woman, nor have I watched a movie or anything on this, so I'm so excited. this will be really good. The other one I picked up, I'm not so sure about. I just grabbed it because it said mystery, so that was a good start because most of the books in the little library were like romance or like westerns, and those just aren't genres that I'm particularly interested in. And this is called The Resistance Man, A Mystery of the French Countryside by Martin Walker. And it looks interesting. I'm not sure exactly what this is about. The Minneapolis Star-Tribune on the back calls Bruno, I do not know how to say the last name, it's French, but they call him France's answer to dapper James Bond. I'm intrigued. I've watched some James Bond movies, and I will say, this might be an unpopular opinion, but I started with some of the later ones, the Daniel Craig ones, and I like how those have a lot more, I don't know, like character growth, I would say. There's a little bit more depth, I think, to them versus some of the more like campy ones. Maybe it's just because those are the ones that I first like started with. When I went back to some of the earlier ones, I was kind of like, wow. And also just the way that James Bond treats women, like it's a mess. I mean, I know that's kind of part of his character, but it's still a mess. Anyways, so I'm intrigued by that description alone. It says that it is summer in St. Denis, and for the chief of police, Bruno, that means a new season of cases. This time he's got 3 on his mind. First, there's the evidence linking a veteran of the French resistance to a notorious train robbery. Then a former British spymaster's estate is robbed. And finally, an antiques dealer whose lover is conveniently on the lam is murdered. So he begins to process these investigations, and he starts to suspect that they might actually all be connected. But figuring out the connection and these cases will take all the skill he knows. So I'm excited for this. I don't know. I'm going to guess this doesn't look like a cozy mystery necessarily because the main character is like a chief of police. I don't know if the town is small. It does sound like it is. It does take place during like a small village. He does have an irrepressible puppy, which that's always a plus. It kind of sounds like a cozy mystery in general, other than the chief of police bit. I don't know what the violence level or anything like that is in this, but like the village politics, the puppy, just, I don't know, it just kind of gives some of those vibes. But as far as I know, this is just kind of a straight mystery, and I'm really excited for this. It sounds interesting. It looks cool. I know the Dorothy Elle Sayers will be my first read between the two of these just because I'm very excited for this. And yeah, that is my book haul today. Thank you guys so much for watching today. If you are not already subscribed, please do hit subscribe. I do post new book content every single week on this channel, especially within the mystery and thriller genres. If you really enjoy those, you'll love this channel. Definitely hit subscribe. Please let me know down below, have you recently picked up any books from your library or bought any books? And what books are you excited to be reading in the near future? I love reading your comments and your suggestions. That's how I get some of these books back here, actually. So I love always reading those. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye!